My name is Josh Sloan. I am from Richmond, Virginia, and I care very deeply about a few things, one of which is food. I love cooking food. I love going out to eat. I love trying different food, like from different parts of the world and things like that. And I also care very deeply about movies, and I consume a ton of them. I like all kinds, American, non-American, all kinds of genres, art house, popular movies. I watch a ton of movies. My injury happened when I was 24. Basically, all I really cared about from the time I was about 18 forward was traveling. When I was not in like college, I would travel. I'd go like on some big trip somewhere to go like hiking or skiing or snowboarding. And then after college, some friends and I all moved to Denver, Colorado. I was a teacher, so I had the summer off, and all my friends were still working during the day. So I just rode my motorcycle all day for 5 days a week. After being there for a year, I got a job teaching at a school in Quito, Ecuador. And so I moved there, and I was going to live there for 2 years. And then my spinal cord injury happened in Ecuador. I'd been there for about 3 months. So in November of 2014, some teacher friends and I went on a long weekend, like a 3-day weekend trip to the jungle to go like jungle trekking and to get around in that part of the world. You use buses very similar to like a Greyhound, but they're not nationally syndicated brands, just like a bus. And so I took the bus, I fell asleep reading a book, and I woke up to the bus crashing. That's all she wrote. I just thought I was like stuck underneath of something, and that's why I couldn't move. And then I was trying to call for help, but I couldn't talk. My now ex-girlfriend was in the crash as well, wasn't injured. So she was able to like find me and then, get some EMTs and actually get on an ambulance. And the hospital I was at did not have a ton of experience with spinal cord injury. So it was more so like trying to talk about how I could get stem cells and I'll open a prayer that you're going to have regeneration kind of conversations, which I very deeply believe aren't helpful. And when I got back to Richmond, one doctor in particular came in to see me while I was still in the ICU. The first thing he did was like, see how you can flick your wrist like this? That's how you're going to do basically everything. So you're very lucky to have that. And I said, what's the percent likelihood that I could, ever walk again or whatever, or use my hands, whatever. He's like, looking at your MRI, less than 1%. And it's just like, got it. Thank you. My personality is very pessimistic and critical. I'm not an optimist at all. And I don't think that that's something that I don't think that necessarily has to be a negative. I never once said I'm walking out of this hospital or something like that. My thing was just like, if I get better, if I have like spinal cord injury regeneration, that's awesome. But I was not putting my faith in that. I was trying to make sure that I was as independent as possible, but regardless of how I turned out. I'm a C5, C6. I can flip my wrists up and down. Being able to flip your wrists up and down is like sort of the difference between being able to do anything for yourself and nothing for yourself. But because I'm just barely on the cusp of being able to be independent, I needed to stay at therapy for a long time, particularly for quads. And I think you're really spending a year to a year and a half, at least for me, getting to what I would consider my baseline. If you can feed yourself and you can pee by yourself, then you at least will be independent for 90% of the day. And also if you need to be able to drive where I'm at. Those are my like big goals. I mean, feeding, that comes very quickly. That's not hard. But being independent with your bladder function is a long and difficult process if you don't have hand function. So that took about a year. Basically, I mean, the trick was getting Botox injections in my bladder. Once I did that, didn't leak anymore. Driving, I had to raise a bunch of money and I had to get involved with my state vocational rehab to help me buy a van that was adapted so that I could drive it, to go to driving school and all that stuff. That took like a year. The big one after that for me was getting into bed at night by myself. Then I can go to bed when I want. I don't have to rely on somebody. I don't have to have caregivers come in the evening. So I watched a ton of YouTube videos, just stopped letting people help me with my legs when I was doing my transfer into bed, stopped letting people help me get my pants off and get my shoes off. For a couple of years after that, I still had caregivers coming like 7 days a week in the mornings. In all honesty, when I started playing rugby and I needed to travel for tournaments on the weekends, I was like, well, if I don't know how to do my bowel program by myself, I guess what I could do is stop doing it on the weekends. And then all I need to do is learn how to put some gym shorts on because I already know how to do upper body dressing. So I just teach myself how to put some gym shorts on, put some tennis shoes on, and then I can go to rugby tournaments and I won't need to bring someone with me as a caregiver. So literally that's what made me independent in the mornings outside of the bowel program is rugby. So I went from needing a caregiver every morning for about 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours and every night for about 30 minutes to an hour to needing a caregiver for 2 hours, 3 times a week. Outside of those physical independence tasks, the thing that most directly negatively impacts my life is lack of access to things. So like if my friends are going to have a party and they're having it at a party that's not accessible, that's going to make my life worse. If everybody wants to go out to eat and the restaurant doesn't have a ramp or a no threshold entryway, that's going to make my life worse. There's a small margin of friends and honestly a small margin of family, like more extended family, that I just find they just don't know how to interact with disabled people. Outside of that, I would say 99% of the people that I used to hang out with were still good friends. You need the support of your friends and family. Even if you're fully independent, you're not going to be fully independent 24/7, 365. There's things that you're always going to need help with from time to time. And, being willing to accept that help, but then also making sure and doing your best to not accept help unless you need it is really helpful with your relationships with your friends and family. Because if your friends and family feel like they're only around you or you're only around them because you need help, that can be really hard on a relationship. Peer mentoring was a good thing for me and helpful for me. I like to be able to ask people like extremely pointed, like specific questions and get specific answers. That plus for me, I need to be around people that can relate directly to my situation, because I don't know that people without spinal cord injuries, or certainly people without disabilities, really know how to empathize with my situation. And most of my spinal cord injury friends come from the adaptive sports that I played. The company that I was an athlete at and have been working at for the past 4 years called Sportable. We're a local sports nonprofit, and the people that I do all of these like activities with, kayaking, cycling, rowing, archery, even if they don't have spinal cord injuries, they're disabled and they're like-minded disabled people. And that's really helpful for me. In 2019, when we started a rugby program, I was basically like, because I work here and I'm a quad, it's kind of like, well, you're going to play rugby, right? And it's kind of like, I guess. And then I did. And then the thing about rugby is that you can be good at it. And that's a really big deal. Like on the rugby court, I can be like an important piece of the puzzle. And so that I very much valued, which is why I've like fallen in love with it so much. I mean, I think my most surprising accomplishment and the thing that I'm most proud of is that I just closed on a house and moved into a house that I bought. There is a program in the Richmond area called the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And it's basically like if you are income qualified and you can still pay a mortgage and like have good credit and stuff, you can buy the home and they will lease you the land that the home is on for free. I would say the thing that I very much like want is a way to like travel more independently. That would be awesome. Avoid staying in the house at all costs. Like whatever you can do to not be in the house, do that. Do it as fast as possible. Try to be productive if you are stuck in the house. Like just try not to just sit there. Even if it's something really simple, again, like reading a book, like that is better than just sitting there. But trying to get out of the house, even if you don't like sports, the adaptive sports is such a good way to get more independent. Being around people with your same injury is really important. And they're just such a good way to fill the time. And if not, I mean, do something that you like. Like if you like to paint, don't just paint by yourself, like go take a painting class or something. Like do something that you're going to be like out doing it. You should plan for the worst and hope for the best. Don't get caught up on what you are going to be able to move or feel, and focus on like what you literally can do today. Because like whatever happens tomorrow, then you should deal with tomorrow. But like right now in this second, you need to think about it as if this is the rest of your life and work towards figuring that out. Because if you dwell on like what might happen in the future, you're not going to be present in your life. You're going to be just waiting for something to change. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to want to walk again or whatever, but don't let it take away from your quality of life.